bright. Rev it up, feel the pace, speed hounds in the race. Feel the thrill, feel the chase, victory is our holy place. Throttle down, no time to waste, in this high-octane haste. Every corner, every taste, leads us closer to first place. Under lights, the engine scream, this is more than just a dream. Through the asphalt like a beam, racers' hearts with fervor gleam. In this game we find our might, push the pedal like the night. With each lap our spirits flight, racing on with all our might. Trucks flying through the night, NASCAR dreams within our sight. Asphalt heroes in the fight, peacemakers gaming life so bright. Rev it up, feel the pace, speed hounds in the race. Feel the thrill, feel the chase, victory is our holy place. Thrill the place, thrill the place. Throttle down, no time to waste, in this high-octane haste. Feel the thrill, feel the chase, victory is our holy place. Throttle down, no time to waste, in this high-octane haste. Every corner, every taste, leads us closer to first place. Throttle down, no time to waste, in this high-octane haste. In this high-octane haste, every corner, every taste, leads us closer to first place. Under lights, the engine scream, this is more than just a dream. Through the asphalt like a beam, racers' hearts with fervor gleam.
Vision. Planning. Possibility. At Metal Morphosis Machine, we turn ideas into engineered reality. Whether you're working with plastics, composites, ferrous or non-ferrous metals, our capabilities and vast partner network ensure no project is too big, too small, or too complex. From concept to completion, your success starts here. Discover how Metal Morphosis can elevate your machining needs today. Precision.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome, and as we get ready to rumble here this evening with the not the Metalheads, this is the HCK Beagles Truck Series here this afternoon, as we get 75 laps of racing action here from the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as these drivers get loaded into the sim, each and every one of them looking for the win here this evening. As a big shout out to our series sponsor over at Metal Morphosis LLC, as out in front, starting on the pole, the HendrickCars.com number 5 ride, that is Nicholas Snyder, to his outside. In the quick trip number 1, it is Brad Lane. Starting in position number 3 in the Howard number 64 ride, that is Cal Turboville, to his outside. In the Napa Auto Parts number 27, it is Nick Gardner. Starting in the 5th position in the Hometown Garage number 68, that is Evan Gourmet, to his outside will be the Metal Morphosis Machine LLC number 18 of Jacob Groove. Starting in position number 7 in the Muleburger Custom Homes Sonic Graphic Designs number 42, it's Winker Nation, Kevin Winker, starting there in 7th. To his outside in the Jegs.com number 45, the Chevrolet of Mr. Chris Gilbert, is starting in the 9th position inside row number 5. The Ridge Powersports KR Gutters Machine of Bobby Blair. To his outside will be, let's take another look at it, should be the number 50 machine of Robert Howard, rounding out our top 10. The Sky Soldiers HCK Beagles Ridge Powersports Number 87 ride is John Herbert starting there in 11th. To his outside will be his teammate in the 469 ride. That is the Ridge Powersports KR Gutters ride of Ryan Peterson with Jason LePan right there in tow. He's got that Richard Bradshaw ride on board with him here this evening as he'll start there in 13th. You'll have the number 4 of Tim Blankenbeckler there to his outside. Tim will start in position number 14 here this evening. And then we do see Ed Kochersberger and the Tank Warrior ride there in 15th. You'll have the Midnight Racing League in number 25 of Gordon Glidewell there to his outside. And bringing up the rear of the field will be the Waffle House, number 14 of Kyle Wiggins. And Kyle Van Tassel unfortunately missed the staging. We'll have to start from pit road here this evening as we end all the anticipation with our feature presentation. As nice and easy down and out of corner number 4. The pace truck will make that hard left-hand turn, back down pit side, and into our restart zone. We will get ready to rumble here for the first time this afternoon and back in action for 2026 with the HCK Beagles Truck Series as Nicholas Snyder will lead us down and into corner number 1. So Snyder quickly back on the loud pedal, hoping to try to open up a bit of a gap here between himself and the one rider, Brad Lane, and that 64, Cal Turboville. As Turboville will take advantage of a good start and jumps in front of that one ride. As hang on to the 87 rider, John Herbert, a little squirrely there out at corner number 2 as all these drivers carrying a ton of momentum. Back down into corner number 1 as Evan Gourmet will move up a couple spots as he'll steal position number 3 away from that one ride of Brad Lane. As each and every one of these drivers, they're going to have to be thinking to themselves, what do they have to do to find their way into victory lane here this evening? What can they do to beat that 5 rider, Nicholas Snyder? Snyder, our pole sitter, will lead lap number 1 here this evening. So our first lap of the day into the history books here in 2026 as each and every one of these drivers is going to be doing everything they can to try to put themselves up and into victory lane. It's 75 laps the racing action. We will have a stage completion at the end of lap number 23. Now there is no stage break, there is no caution flag at the end of that stage, but for these drivers, does that bring in the opportunity, does that bring in the want to potentially try to stretch out fuel, stretch out tires? How do you game plan here this evening? At 75 laps, you got 4 total sets of tires, and you got to make sure they got enough fuel in that tank to give yourself enough time to potentially find victory lane. As David Trailer says, hashtag Winker Nation. What's good, David? David coming in, show the love here this evening. As Tyler Stevenson says, let's go, Nick. Cheering on Nick Snyder here this evening as Metalhead's Truck Series teammate. As Shauna in the chat as well says, let's go Winker, hashtag Winker Nation. Brandon Noah with the Winker Nation as well here in the chat. Janelle coming in, showing the love, says, let's go Ridge Powersports and KR Gutters, cheering on all your favorite drivers here this evening. Welcome back in for another amazing 2026, ladies and gentlemen. Going to be another great year, a lot of great racing, and a lot of, potentially new faces and new places, new drivers up and into victory lane and joining us here into the booth. And we're excited to bring you guys all the action and all the amazing racing here almost every single night of the week as all of our series start to roll back in here. Everyone's starting to get back into the action after the, winter holidays and everything else. We were live last night. We're back tonight. We're back in action tomorrow night. We got our Thursday night series starting up here in just a little bit. Fridays are back again. Saturdays are getting started back up soon. Sundays are back. We are going to be back pretty much every single day of the week to bring you guys non-stop amazing racing action here on Peacemaker Gaming. As you did see Brad Lane work his way back into that 3rd position, but out in front it is still Nicholas Snyder. Now this racetrack, as much as it's not a super speedway, it plays a bit like a super speedway. These big, long straightaways that they tend to draft a lot here. So if you start drafting, you start trying to roll some of that draft, it's very, very easy to kind of be behind somebody and pull up to them. You get that draft up their back bumper down these straightaways, and it can really help you close into the cars in front of you. And I think that's what really makes for these drivers the kind of game plan, to maybe not be the driver out in front. That car that kind of leads the way kind of pulls everybody along with them and kind of sets the pace for the most part with that lead group. So I think that's exactly where Cal Turbeville and Brad Lane, even Evan Gomet, are kind of sitting pretty right now, as they may not be burning up as much fuel or as much tire as the 5 ride of Nicholas Snyder right now. And for Snyder, you really got to find some speed. You either got to have the drivers behind you let off too much, roll out of the throttle, have a mistake where it allows you to kind of brake far enough away that once you kind of get in front of these guys, once you kind of get away from them, you can really start to run better lap times than a lot of these other drivers. If you got the truck to do it, you can pull away, you can open up a massive lead, but it just takes so much to kind of break away here. It takes a lot out of your truck, it takes a lot out of your tires and your wheel out there on the speedway. So you got to be very, very patient and just bide your time and hope that they run into a mistake. Have an issue like we just saw for the 45 ride. Chris Gilbert got very loose there coming out of core number 2. Those little issues can open up the door for you to kind of open up the lead that you need to kind of pull away from the lead group. As so far in this one, pretty much everybody is right around where they started. You know, a lot of the drivers inside of our top 10 have moved forward, you know, one spot or lost one spot. Almost the inside lane virtually moving forward one position here on that start, and everyone else kind of on the outside lane has fallen back at least a position. When you look at Brad Lane and Nick Gardner and, you know, even Jacob Grube, here he comes trying to battle back, trying to work his way back around Kevin Winker for that 6th position, and it looks like Winker not going to put up too much of a fight this early. He'll cut back down in front of him, but here comes a big run of momentum for the 75 ride of Bobby Blair and Chris Gilbert. They'll jump down to the inside of that Muhlenberger Custom Homes ride of Kevin Winker, and as they start battling more and more door to door, that could be what our front four really need to start to separate themselves. You start to see them starting to pull farther and farther away from one another. They start to pull a little bit farther away from that second group as well, as Snyder continues to lead the way down and across the line. He'll lead our first 7 laps here in this race. So first 7 laps into the history books. Nicholas Snyder, our pole sitter, has been out in front for all of them. Cal Turbeville's been right there to his back bumper here, really not letting him run away with it, but you start to see that gap brewing here between Cal and Brad Lane in that quick trip number 1, and a little bit more of a gap there between him and that 68 of Evan Gomet. Now for Nick Gardner, quite a little ways back here. Gardner, Jacob Grube, and we talked about these guys were starting to battle door to door. All of a sudden, they find themselves, you know, 2 seconds behind Nick Gardner, 2 seconds behind, you know, Jacob Grube. They were just right there with them. We just watched Grube get around Kevin Winker, but that bit of side-by-side action had allowed those 2 drivers to just pull away, and these guys fell way, way back here. And now it brings in Robert Howard back into the battle. Now they start to battle. Now they're 3-1. This is going to hurt them. It's going to allow that 42 of Kevin Winker to pull away from him a little bit. As here comes the 20 of Jason LePan. LePan would love to try to move forward. He would love to try to work his way inside the top 10. Is right now the outside of the top 10 looking in as John Herbert back in the 12th position with Ryan Peterson there in 13th. Gordon Glidewell, they're in 14th. Kyle Wiggins right now, our hard charger, up 3 positions early on in this race. The Waffle House ride now sits in that 15th position with Tim Blankenbeckler in that beautiful number 4 machine. Sits back in 16th with Ed Koshersberger there in 17th. And Kyle Van Tassel, who unfortunately had to start from pit road, finds himself back here in that 18th position. Is Brent Winker, what's good? Brent coming in, showing the love, says hashtag Winker Nation with the horns up in the chat. Horns up, baby, for Winker Nation here this evening, and all these amazing drivers as another great night of racing action. And here we go. We start to see that 5 ride pulling away here, starting to open up a little bit of that gap. Now tires could start to come into play. Fuel could really start to show its face here. For a lot of these drivers, you only have 70% of fuel in these tanks. I'm going to assume they're going to run probably somewhere around 18 laps, somewhere in that area. They might be able to stretch it to about 20 laps here. Well, that's going to be, 3 to 5 laps shy of our stage break. Do we have any drivers that maybe try to play a little strategy, come down a little bit sooner, take a set of tires, try to earn those stage points, try to put those into your back pocket, and then just try to play catch up later in this race? Or do you game plan for maybe the finish and not for that stage early on this evening? I think for a lot of these drivers, that's the kind of thoughts that are going through their mind right now. They're trying to figure out, what they have, where they're at, what they need to do to try to put themselves into a good position, whether or not for the stage break or for the finish of this feature event. Because for the HCK Beagles, man, we come here quite often. These guys run a long season. They run a lot of races. They come to a lot of different racetracks, but we've seen them in short tracks. We've seen them in the super speedways. We've seen them here in intermediate style racetracks where they have run clean and green, zero caution flags. And if that's the case, if that is the possibility again here tonight from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, then you really got a game plan here to try to figure out where you can make up ground, where you can try to find that extra bit of speed, that extra little bit of ground on our race leaders and the drivers in front of you. You look back at Kevin Winker, who even sits back in that 7th position. Winker sits right now 5 seconds behind our race leaders. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but in the short term, it is a long distance here. It's a lot of distance. You look at, Kevin Winker here, or even the 45 rider, Chris Gilbert, who sit 5 seconds plus outside of the race lead. They're just exiting corner number 2 right there. Our race leader already midway down the back straightaway, so it's a pretty sizable gap that you got to try to figure out, that you got to try to find and drive your way into a position to try to gain that track time back, to gain all that position back, to try to open up a bit of an advantage there. It's almost an entire corner advantage for that 5 ride of Nicholas Snyder from, 1st to 7th place out there on the Speedway. But out in front, it is Snyder who will click off another lap, leading the first 12 laps here today, as Cal Turboville sits there in 2nd, Brad Lane back in 3rd, Evan Gomet in position number 4, and then we do see that gap all the way back here to Jacob Grube, as Grube now back inside the top 5, as the beautiful Warrior Racing Metal Morphosis machine number 18 jumps up into that 5th spot as Nick Garner slides back into position number 6. Kevin Winker there in 7th as Chris Gilbert and Bobby Blair try to reel him back in, try to catch back up to that number 42 ride. Robert Howard still rounding out our top 10 here. Great run so far for Mr. Howard, man. Up inside the top 10, looking pretty strong here this evening, and it's great to see Robert getting a good run here today as Jason LePan, Ryan Peterson, Kyle Wiggins now up 5 positions, rolling in that 13th spot on the Speedway is John Herbert back in 14th. Gordon Glidewell there in 15th. Tim Blankenbeckler, Ed Koschersberger, and Kyle Van Tassel bringing up the rear of the field. And now if you're Van Tassel, you got to be a little bit nervous. You got to be a little bit on your tippy toes here because, you're about 42 seconds behind Nicholas Snyder, and you're virtually about a straightaway away from potentially being the first driver to lose a lap here this evening. Now that is a huge deficit that is definitely going to be tough to battle back from, especially if we don't have any caution flags and any lucky dogs being handed out. It's going to get tougher and tougher. And now for Nicholas Snyder, now that he's kind of got some of that fresh air by himself, he's starting to open up a bit more of a lead between himself and Cal Turboville. You're really going to start to see a lot more, dirty air, basically, that huge front getting dropped onto the nose of the 64 ride, which can really start to settle him back, could really start to slow him down. And as it slows him down, it could allow that 5 ride of Nicholas Snyder to start to pull farther and farther away here. This is normally when we start to see drivers open up a bit bigger of a gap once they kind of get that distance between themselves and the 3-car pack, 4-car pack, or even 10-car pack back behind them. That's exactly where we start to see them start to pull farther and farther out in front. So for Nicholas Snyder, that's exactly what he's trying to do, trying to open up more of a gap here as Cal Turboville going to look to try to hang on to 2nd. second. He's got Brad Lane and his teammate Evan Gomet right there with them as they round corner number 3. Nice and easy. Back down into corner number 4. And they'll head back down the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway front straightaways. Nicholas Snyder out in front. The HendrickCars.com number 5, Brian. He has been the reflection of perfection so far here this evening as he will complete lap number 15 here today. So 15 laps down, 60 laps left to go here for these drivers. 60 laps left to duke it out. And for a lot of these cats, they got to be wondering, where do we make our move? When do we make our move? And unfortunately, they're down through corner number 1 and 2. A little bit of a slip up for Nicholas Snyder. Snyder actually gave up about half a second there to Cal Turboville, and Cal's going to continue to reel him in down the back straightaway. So a little bit of a slide, and unfortunately for the 5 ride, it kind of defeats all the progress, all of the gap that he had built. Now that 64 going to start to get a little bit of, a little bit of draft off the back bumper here of that HendrickCars.com number 5 ride, and that may be enough for Cal to kind of reel him back in, kind of get back into that battle. As you do see K-Dub, Kevin Winker going to move down to the inside here as he's battling with Bobby Blair and Chris Gilbert. Gilbert is able to get around him, and now so isn't Bobby Blair. And for K-Dub, slides back into position number 9. Jason LePan able to work his way up and into that 10th position as he works his way around the 50 of Robert Howard. Howard going to stick right there in that fight, trying to work his way back down to the inside of that Warrior Racing number 20 machine as the Morphosis machine now inside the top 10 here, open to try to join his teammate Jacob Grube a little farther forward, maybe inside the top 5 by the end of the night. As Jacob Grube rolling there in that 5th position, he's still about 3.2 seconds back of our race leader, about 2.3 seconds back of our 4th place driver, as you start to see Brad Lane move down to the inside, and here comes Kevin Winker. K-Dub gonna head down pit road here on lap number 17, so maybe making that little bit earlier of a pit stop. Headed down pit road, maybe gonna try to throw on some tires, maybe try to leapfrog or gain a few positions to try to earn some stage breaks here this evening, as I feel a lot of these drivers aren't going to be able to make it to lap 23 when our stage ends here this evening. So I think for a lot of these drivers, that was a bit of a mistake right there. A little bit too far in his pit stall. Luckily enough, quickly able to recognize that, put it in reverse and get rolling here now for Winker. He just needs everybody virtually to come down pit road before lap 23 and hope that, the lap or 2, maybe 3 extra laps with fresher tires will allow him to leapfrog a lot of these drivers. Is right there. You see Cal Turboville very loose out of corner number 4. And all of a sudden, that's going to put Evan Gomet now into 2nd for Nicholas Snyder. He's hoping that's enough for him to pull away once again. He's able to open up a good gap between himself and Cal. And now you see Cal in the 1. Brad Lane going to battle here for 3rd. Looks like Brad is going to be able to take that spot away from him. Nick Garner gets back around Jacob Grube as the tire fall off really starting to take effect here for a lot of these drivers. Our opening laps, they were running inside the 53-second bracket. 53.5. 53 4s for some drivers, and now running about 55.6, 55.5 second lap times. So virtually about 2 seconds a tire fall off here, and an 18 lap run, about to be 19 laps. So as these drivers continue to kind of run these laps, continue to keep on rolling out there on the speedway, they're continuing to kind of work a little bit more. They're starting to slip and slide. They're starting to get a lot slower, and that's where we talked about maybe making that earlier pit stop, trying to go for those stage points may be the winning move. And for Kevin Winker, coming down pit side on lap number 17, he's going to be running really good lap times now. He's going to be really catching up to these guys and potentially leapfrogging them, putting himself in front of them. And as they start to come down pit road, he'll leapfrog a lot of drivers, and it could put him out in front into a very good position here for potentially a stage win, as Gordon Glidewell going to work his way now down pit side. So for the 25, he'll make his pit stop as Winker, his teammate, trying to roll his way back into the fight here, hoping that he can cycle things around and hope that he can put himself into a great position. As here comes Nicholas Snyder. It looks like Gomet will stay out. Same with Cal Turboville, but Nicholas Snyder, Brad Lane, Actually, Cal Turbeville does come down pit side as well. It's Nick Garner, Jacob Grube, Chris Gilbert, Bobby Blair are going to stay out a little bit longer. Here comes Robert Howard. Here comes Kyle Wiggins. Driver trying to get checked up. You do not want to get a pit road speeding penalty, as it could be game over and day over. Getting a black flag down pit road here this evening, but right now you do see about 5 more drivers make their way down pit road at 20 laps completed here this evening. But for Evan Gomet, Nick Gardner, some of these guys trying to stretch out that fuel a little bit farther, trying to go a little bit longer here, hoping that that extra little bit of tire saving potentially, trying to leapfrog and get that better tire later in the run for them. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out for their strategy and see where K-Dub Kevin Winker kind of comes out in all of this, as Winker down the front straightaway. He's trying to get in front of Snyder in Brad Lane, and a lot of these guys, they're headed down in through corner number 1 and 2 right now. And for Winker, unfortunately, he may have been just a little too far back. We'll have to wait and see. He's going to have a little bit more momentum down the back straightaway. But I think for K-Dub, it may just be a top 5 for him. I think he needed these guys to stay out for at least that extra lap or two to really give himself that advantage. Unfortunately, not going to quite find it right there, as now we do see, lap 21 being completed. Here comes Evan Gomet, Jacob Grube, Chris Gilbert, Bobby Blair's down pit side. Jason LePan comes down pit road. Nick Gardner, though, going to stay out for another lap here. So isn't Ryan Peterson and Koshersberger. Tim Blankenbackler, John Herbert, they're all going to stay out for another lap. And now we'll have to wait and see where everyone else kind of comes out. Here comes Snyder around Gomet, around a lot of these guys. Same with Brad Lane, Cal Turbeville. Where does Winker come into play? There's K-Dub. He's able to work his way potentially around the 68 ride right here. Should be able to steal that, what could be the 5th position away from that 68 ride. Now, the unfortunate downfall to this is that, yes, he will earn probably some stage points. Unfortunately, though, it's going to put him into a very difficult position, as John Herbert going to complete lap number 22. He's going to stay out, so John Herbert will take over the race lead. He is coasting here. John Herbert is coasting, but if he can make it on fuel, if he can make it one more time around the Speedway, I don't know if he's out or if he's got a little bit left in the tank here, but for John Herbert, he's trying to stretch it and trying to win this stage. I'm not sure how it's going to play out for him, as Nicholas Snyder does jump back up into second here as of right now. Brad Lane, Cal Turbeville, Winker looks to be, for the moment, in that 5th position, so he was able to leapfrog Evan Gomet, Jacob Grube, Chris Gilbert, able to work himself into potentially some, stage points here this evening. But for John Herbert, man, I don't know if he can make it another lap. He's going to probably have to come down pit side this time, and in doing so, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hang on to a stage point. We'll have to keep an eye on where he kind of crosses that start-finish line. But here comes Nicholas Snyder down and through corner number 3 and 4 for Herbert. He's just heading through the Geico restart zone. Here comes the start-finish line. Looks like Snyder's able to get around him. There goes Brad Lane. There goes Cal Turbeville. He does finish that stage just in front of Kevin Winker. And in doing so, though, he ends up getting a black flag. Actually, such a detrimental mistake there for John Herbert. So I think he saw what I was seeing, that these drivers were coming out of corner number 4, that all that strategy and saving that he was doing may have been for nothing. So he tried to push it, trying to get there to make sure that he could, get some stage points, in which case he did earn, I do believe, that 4th position in the stage. So he does earn a few stage points, but it comes with a black flag speeding down pit road to try to make sure he got inside the top 6 to earn stage points. And now we'll have a hold down pit road, and more than likely we'll end up losing a lap and be, deep in the field here and in a very, very difficult position, with this one potentially going clean and green here this evening for John Herbert. That means, potentially you're going to be a lap down. You're going to be trapped back here all day long, and you're not going to be able to get a good finish. So really, those stage points, yeah, he may earn 2 or 3 extra bonus points, but really you come home 17th, 18th now. What does that really give you? What does that literally net gain you? not a lot here, so that's going to be tough for John Herbert to battle back. He'll need a caution flag at some point in time here this evening as Nicholas Snyder once again reconsumes that race lead. He was able to win the stage. Brad Lane comes home second in the stage. Cal Turboville finishes third in that stage with the 87 of John Herbert finishing fourth. Kevin Winker comes home fifth in the stage, and rounding out our stage points was that hometown garage number 68 of Evan Gourmet. Gourmet comes home in sixth in the stage, earns himself at least a stage point, and for the 68 ride, trying to battle his way back up here. Came down pit road a lap after than our front three, but unfortunately you see the gap that they were able to kind of create with that 68 ride coming down pit road just one lap later, and unfortunately he's trying to hope that the one lap better tires can make a difference, can help him, reel them in and get back into that battle at the front of the field. But for Nicholas Snyder, he's out in front, has a 1.2 second gap between himself and Brad Lane. He's definitely feeling a-okay right now. He knows that really the strategy's been played out for them. He knows what they need to do. He knows kind of what their game plan is going to be for the rest of this race, and probably going to run until lap number 40, come back down pit road there on lap 40, come back down pit side on lap number 60, and then bam, right there, you got a 15 lap run to the end of the race, and you still have an extra set of tires potentially back down behind pit wall, that if there's a late race caution flag or anything else, you can use to your advantage and help try to put yourself back into the battle here today. So I think for a lot of these drivers, that's really what the game plan is going to be. I don't think anyone's going to be splitting hairs trying to double stop on a stint here. I think everyone's going to be trying to run that 20 to 21 lap area and trying to make sure that they're good on fuel at the end. If they kind of run that 20, 40, 60 lap strategy, even though everyone's going to be on it, it's probably the smartest way to go here with this race potentially staying clean and green. Now a caution flag may fly at any moment in time, even right now with these drivers, running 7 to, 6 laps, 5 laps for some. Even right now, if a caution flag were to fly, you would almost want to come back down pit road and throw a fresh set of tires back on anyways, because you just don't know when you're going to get the ability or the opportunity to throw that extra set on, because it may be the only caution flag, it may be the only time or the only break that you get to kind of make that additional pit stop and give yourself that extra little bit of fuel or that extra little bit of good tire out there on the racetrack. And for Nicholas Snyder out in front, lap after lap after lap, that decision will get easier and easier the closer and closer to get the lap number 40. So I think for potentially a driver like Kevin Winker, I think he would love to see it, because he's got good track position right now, but now with 4 to 3 lap older tires and a lot of these drivers behind him, he's just kind of at the mercy of these guys, and unfortunately nothing he can really do right here as you watch Jacob Grube move around him. Grube back up inside the top 5, and for Winker falls back into that 6th position as gained up 4 lap older tires. Then that 18 ride, really nothing he could do to hang on right there, running about 5/10, 6/10 slower than Jacob Grube out there on the racetrack. So unfortunately, kind of back right there. As Peterson says, I'm bored, laugh out loud. He says, you're bored? What in the world? Peterson, how are you bored, brother? How are you bored? Is Peterson not in here? Ryan Peterson? Is that Ryan Peterson in the chat? What in the world? Ryan, are you in the chat? Are you texting and driving? What in the world are you doing? He's texting and driving, laugh out loud. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is Ryan Peterson doing here this evening? Texting and driving out there on the racetrack. If that is Ryan Peterson, that's going to be very, very fun to watch and see if you can continue to text and drive out there on the racetrack, as the Ridge Powersports 469 ride sits in about the 12th position. Only about 13 seconds outside the top 10, as he says, yes, laugh out loud, laugh out loud. Yeah, the straightaways are long enough. The straightaways are long enough. You're running kind of single file. You're running by yourself. You kind of got some time that you can't send out a text message, maybe an email, do some business there, down these long straightaways at Indy. And you're kind of sitting back there in that 12th position. You got 13 seconds between yourself and the car in front of you. You got, a few drivers back behind you, but really nothing, pressing to your back bumper. You kind of get that time to just sit back, relax, maybe play some strategy, try to figure some different things out. Now for Peterson, he was down pit road on lap number 22, so potentially some different pit strategy here for Peterson. Some of these drivers a little deeper in the field. When you look at Ed Koshersberger, Tim Blankenbeckler, unfortunately for their teammate John Herbert, trying to make it that little bit farther, trying to make it to earn those stage points. That black flag, though, unfortunately, does have him a lap down and kind of stuck back here in the 17th spot on the Speedway. And unfortunately, he is the first driver a lap down. Now, that's great news because he could potentially earn a lucky dog and get back on the lead lap, but unfortunately our race leaders are not too far away from his teammate Bobby Blair right here. So Bobby's gonna try to work himself, and keep himself in front of our race leaders in case there is that caution flag, as Peterson says he's in no man's land. Laugh out loud, no man's land. I like that. And you definitely kind of are in no man's land out there. I think for a lot of drivers, they're kind of in the same boat, kind of just, chilling, relaxing right now. As you see Koshersberger right there, Blankenbeckler's kind of in that battle, as well as Gordon Glidewell, Bobby Blair. He's trying to keep himself on the lead lap. John Herbert's hoping to catch a caution flag, hoping to get that lucky dog, the free pass back on the lead lap and back into the action here this evening. But for Nicholas Snyder, man, he's just continuing to pull farther and farther away. We saw a bit of a battle brewing there for that second and third position. Cal Turboville stays in second, but his teammate, Evan Gomet, right back into the battle. We talked about how Gomet has that one lap better advantage to the tires here, and it's starting to pay off a little bit for him. He's running quite a bit better lap times than our race leaders here, and he's worked his way back up into third, maybe looking to try to jump up into second here as he rolls right behind his teammate. But unfortunately, they have kind of fallen away as they started the battle there, as they started to go a little bit more door to door and duking it out there. Unfortunately for these drivers, for Cal Turboville, Evan Gomet, they now find themselves about 2.6 seconds back of our race leader, Nicholas Snyder. And Snyder has a big gap here, and he's hoping to keep it that way, hoping to stretch it out, hoping to pull farther and farther away from this, second group virtually out there on the racetrack. Our second, third, fourth place driver out there on the Speedway, as a 2.6 second lead is definitely, quite insurmountable when it comes to a race that could stay clean and green all evening long. And for these drivers, they're going to have to try to make that up, whether it's through pit strategy or trying to work the draft, trying to work themselves back into the battle for the race lead. But it's going to get very, very hard here for them to try to reel in that 5 right. And Nicholas Snyder is now opening up to about 2 3/4 now, 2.75 seconds out in front of the field, as Tower Operator says hashtag Winker Nation in the chat. Amanda Joy coming in as well with the hashtag Winker Nation here this evening, as K-Dub on a little bit of a different tire strategy earned himself some stage points. Unfortunately, has now fallen back into position number 7. He was down pit road on lap 17. The drivers in front of him were down pit side on lap 20, lap 21, so they got 3-4 lap better tires than Kevin Winker. So he's kind of just sitting in that maybe that bit of that no man's land himself here until he works his way back down pit side here this evening. We'll have to wait and see when Winker decides to come down pit road. I feel like he's probably going to plan somewhere around lap 37, somewhere in that area. I think now he's going to have to kind of run a stint or so of that 20 lap area to kind of balance himself back out to this lead group, kind of keep him close to their pit stops, and hope that again he can leapfrog back in front of them for a bit, kind of stay close, and hope that all these pit stops kind of cycle back through where maybe he'll be in front of a few of these drivers and be able to come home with a solid top 5, kind of playing this short pit stop strategy here this evening. happening. So we'll have to wait and see how it all works out for Kevin Winker as Nick Gardner back there in tow in about that 8th position now for Gardner. He's got 5 lap better tires. He's running about 3/10 quicker than what Kevin Winker has been the last few laps. So we'll have to wait and see if Gardner can catch up to that 42 before Winker finally decides to come down pit road, only a couple laps away from potentially seeing that Muhlenberger Custom Homes ride back down pit road. As we see Jason LePan now into 9th, Robert Howard having himself still a great day as he rolls there in that 10th position. Kyle Wiggins, our hard charger so far in this race, started at the rear of the field, now finds himself up 7 positions, sitting in the 11th spot on the Speedway, and just outside the top 10, hoping to work his way around Robert Howard and trying to work his way inside the top 10 from the back of the pack here this evening. As Peterson, we talked to him in the chat, he's in no man's land back here in that 12th position with Ed Kostersberger, Tim Blankenbeckler, Gordon Glidewell, our top 15. Bobby Blair still keeping himself on the lead lap, but has a race leader still right there behind him. One slip up, one mistake, and we could see Bobby Blair fall into that 1 lap down lucky dog position out there on the Speedway. John Herbert is currently in that lucky dog spot, being the first driver 1 lap down, and for Kyle Van Tassel, unfortunately spent extended period of time down pit road, went about 6-7 laps down, and unfortunately for Kyle Van Tassel, gonna need a miracle and a lot of caution flags to try to get himself back into the battle here today. As Nicholas Snyder out in front of the field here, leading the way here this afternoon. Cal Turboville rolls there in second with Evan Gomet in position number 4. Brent Lane there in 5th with Jacob Grube rounding out our top 5 as Snyder just continue to pull farther and farther away. The gap is now about 3.1 seconds here. 3.1 seconds between himself and our second place driver, Cal Turboville. This is what we were talking about. As that race leader kind of breaks away, it almost actually makes them a little bit quicker because they no longer have anyone on their back bumper to kind of reel into their back bumper, and it can really just show you the pure speed that Snyder has in his race truck. As these drivers kind of run in a pack, he kind of draft off of them, and unfortunately right now for Cal Turboville, for Evan Gomet, for that one ride of Brad Lane, they're kind of just stuck right here. Unfortunately, really not moving too far forward. As they start to battle a little bit more door to door, it's going to allow Nicholas Snyder to pull farther and farther away. So either they got to complete this pass, or they got to hope that they figure something out here in a quick hurry, because whatever they're doing, it is not working. As now Snyder 3.8 seconds. We did see Kevin Winker. He short pitted first the last time. Here he comes back down pit road. This time he stretched it a lap farther though. Instead of making a 17-lap run, I figured he'd run 20 laps this time. He actually ran 21 laps to kind of bring him closer to lap number 40, where I think we're going to see a lot of these drivers come back down pit road. I think a lot of these guys will pit on lap 40 to lap 41, 42, somewhere in that area here this evening as K-Dub finishes his pit stop. We'll roll back out onto the racing surface. Here comes our race leader, Nicholas Snyder, who continues to pull farther and farther away as the gap is now 4 seconds as Cal Turboville hangs on to position number 2. Evan Gomet still trying to figure out and trying to work his way around his teammate here. And Cal Turboville out there on the racetrack. Unfortunately for Gomet, really not getting that advantage. We do see Kyle Wiggins short pitting here a little bit himself. Kyle Wiggins going to come down pit road. Man, he wants that top 10, and he makes his way down pit side. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out here. Now for the strategy for that Waffle House number 14 ride a little later in this race. But for the 5 ride of Nicholas Snyder, this will be the completion of lap number 40. Do we see him make his way down pit road this time, or do we see him kind of stretch it a little bit farther? No, looks like he will come down pit road. So here comes the 5 ride, Nicholas Snyder. Gonna come down pit road. It looks like Cal Turboville Evan Gomet, Brad Lane, they got to try to play a little bit of a different strategy here. They're going to stay out at least another lap longer. They got to try to find a way to reel in our race leader, Nicholas Snyder, as we do see Jacob Grube going to stay out with them. We do see Nick Gardner. He stretched out there a couple extra laps the last cycle. He's going to stay out another couple laps potentially here as well, as we do see Nicholas Snyder, Chris Gilbert, Jason LePan. Here comes Robert Howard all down pit side here on lap number 40 this afternoon. For Nicholas Snyder, we'll have to wait and see kind of where he comes out. Is just about to get done his pit stop. There it is. He's finally able to get it done. He rolls back in onto the racetrack. No black flags, no penalties so far down pit side for these drivers. But for the 5 ride in the 25, they're going to battle door to door. Going back out and onto the racing surface for the 25 machine, trying to keep himself on the lead lap. And unfortunately, not going to quite work out in his favor. As here comes Evan Gomet, Cal Turbeville, Brad Lane, Jacob Grube. So our second group there that were in tow, that were in behind Nicholas Snyder, make their way down pit side here 1 lap after what was our race leader, Nicholas Snyder. We'll have to wait and see where they kind of cycle back out and how it all plays out for them, pinning a lap after that 5 machine. Now for Nick Gardner, he's going to stay out for at least another lap here. We'll have to wait and see. We know he likes to kind of play some big strategies here. Does Nick Gardner maybe go a little bit longer, maybe a little bit farther here and try to work this 27 to lap 44? And then try it again to go to lap, 65-ish or so, have fresh tires for the final 10 laps, or hope to catch a lucky caution flag here and give himself that track position and better tires here over some of these drivers later in this race. We'll have to wait and see, because here he goes. He's going to stay out a little bit longer, as Peterson in the chat says second. Woo! He says he's up into second, chat. No longer in no man's land. Well, he's kind of still there, but now into second, but obviously trying to play that same strategy we saw Gardner, Peterson, Koshersberger, Tim Blankenbeckler all come down pit road there on lap number 22. So I'm assuming they're going to try to run another 22-lap run, or at least for a couple of them, because here comes Koshersberger, here comes Tim Blankenbeckler. They're going to run a 20-lap stint there in that second stint, so they make their way back down pit road. Now for Nick Gardner and Ryan Peterson, they're trying to roll a little bit farther, as Nicholas Snyder is back out in front. He's still got 4 seconds between himself and Cal Turbeville and Evan Gomet, Brad Lane. They're kind of a little bit more broken up right now as well. But for right now, Nicholas Snyder still with a 4-second gap between him and those drivers that were back on his rear bump, well, trying to get to his rear bumper here before this wave of pit stops. As Koshersberger, Bobby Blair's down pit side, Tim Blankenbeckler's down pit road here. John Herbert, he's trying to keep himself on the lead lap or in the lucky dog position. Right now, he is still the first driver 1 lap down, with Nick Gardner still rolling out there. I gotta assume we will see this 27 ride down pit road next time. Down and out of corner number 4 as he heads down the back straightaway. Nick Gardner's out in front. He's leading some laps. Trying to finish off this stage here of the race, as we're, over halfway through it. We're getting into that second half and obviously about to make our, complete our second wave of green flag pit stops. And with only a couple drivers left to go here for Nick Gardner and Ryan Peterson for the 87 of John Herbert, it looks like they're probably going to make their way down pit road this time, as here comes Nick Gardner, Ryan Peterson, nice and easy, down and through corner number 3, and out at corner number 4, we should probably see this 469 ride make his way down pit road, which will forfeit the race lead back over to Nicholas Snyder. So Snyder should jump back out in front, back into the race lead, as Snyder still heading down pit road. Here comes Peterson. There goes Nicholas Snyder right on around him. You see that gap once again between himself and our second place driver out there on the racetrack, as Cal Turbeville still about 4.1 seconds behind that 5 ride of Nicholas Snyder. And for Snyder, I think that gap is going to be pretty insurmountable all evening long, unless if he runs into a huge mistake, runs into some lap traffic, and gets held up quite a bit here. He's kind of sitting in that catbird seat right now and just kind of got to keep pace with these guys, not really give too much up. Even if you lose a second or two, you still have a massive lead and a good gap here towards the end of this race. So I think that's what the game plan will be or at least the next little bit, is Peterson and John Herbert both down pit road. Looks like Herbert able to make it finally back down pit side here on lap number 44 for the 87 ride. So he was able to make it, I do believe, a 21 lap stint this time. This time, so far, no black flags down pit road for anybody. Last time we did see John Herbert earn a black flag, and that put him a lap down and into a difficult position, and it looks like he may stay there as the 87 does once again fall a lap down. For Bobby Blair, also a lap down, and Gordon Glidewell also one lap down out there on the racetrack. Tim Blankenbeckler, last driver on the lead lap here, but Nicholas Snyder not too far away from that 4 ride. So Tim's got to be very, very careful here to not give up too much time here to our race leader, else he may be the next driver to fall a lap down and potentially, make some of these other drivers very, very nervous with, no caution flags up to this point. 46 laps completed. We're getting closer and closer to our checkered flag now with only 29 laps left to go. You got to wonder that this is going to stay clean and green. You lose a lap, you're pretty much kind of out of the picture here to win this race, or really to get a good solid finish here this evening. And for Tim Blankenbeckler, for Gordon Glidewell, Bobby Blair, a lot of these drivers are in very difficult positions. John Herbert right in there with them as well. As you do see K-Dub, Kevin Winker, he's kind of right in this battle once again with, Chris Gilbert and I believe a couple lap down cars here. But for Winker, making that earlier pit stop again, kind of rolling out there for another 2-3 laps. Kind of put him back into a decent position, but really not going to be a winning position. May not even be a top 5 here, so we'll have to wait and see if Winker kind of sticks with this strategy or tries to change it up a little bit more here in this next stage, this next stint. Does he make a bit of an earlier pit stop? Does he go to, potentially, lap 55, maybe lap 56, and then come back down pit road, pitting, 4-5 laps earlier than a lot of these drivers? They kind of really give himself that leapfrog, to really give himself that short pit advantage, a little bit sooner, just pay the price a little bit later in that run? Or do we see him kind of, stay out a little bit longer again and try to balance out the entire game plan with some of the drivers here in front of them? We'll have to wait and see as Winker rolls there in that 6th position, trying to keep Chris Gilbert, Nick Gardner, Jason LePan, a lot of these other drivers back there at bay. I think for Gardner, he's quite a ways away behind him here. So for Winker, he's got about 10 seconds, almost 11 seconds between himself and Nick Gardner. So I think for the strategy, for the most part, biting some big mistakes or heavy lap traffic, I think for Winker, a top 7 definitely in the cards here, but it's going to get very interesting with another wave of green flag pit stops just around the corner for these drivers, as Nicholas Snyder out in front. He has seen that gap kind of shrink a little bit. It is now just under 3 seconds between himself and Cal Turbeville. So for Nicholas Snyder, he's given a little bit back here, but I think he's been a little bit more on that tire saving grind compared to Cal Turbeville and Evan Gomet. Looks like he's saved a little bit longer, a little bit more than what that 64 and 68 ride have been saving here early on in this run. Now, they've been able to close that gap ever so slightly. They sit about that 2.9, 3-second gap now instead of 4 seconds, which is great, but they still got a long ways away to go to try to reel in this 5 ride. And with Snyder potentially saving tire, once they even get within 2 seconds, within a second, will he have that extra advantage just to be able to pull back away from them and try to stretch out that lead once again? We know that Snyder tends to always kind of have that extra little bit of a grind, that extra little bit of a gear, to kind of have that strategy in the back of his mind to help him out, not only, in the short term, but in the long term here throughout these races. And I think he's going to realize, I think a lot of these drivers, even after the first 20, 30 laps of this race, they know it's going to stay clean and green. You're in the bend that you have made. Now it's just about trying to execute, trying to hope to catch a couple lucky breaks, whether it be a caution flag or whether it be a mistake down pit side or a mistake out there on the racetrack that could allow you to kind of get back into the battle, or at least into a fight for a better position late in this race. And unfortunately for a lot of these drivers, they're running out of time in a quick hurry, as Nicholas Snyder had just completed lap number 50. So 50 laps down. 25 more laps left to go here this evening, as we are 2/3 of the way through this race. And if you're Nicholas Snyder, you got 25 laps left to go. You got a 2.7 second lead. Even if you give up, a tenth of a second every lap, you're still going to be out in front. You're still going to keep these guys back there behind you. And for right now, for the 5 ride, he's kind of just, a little bit of cruise control right now, just trying to wait and make his way down into victory lane here, potentially for another win in his HCK Beagles Truck Series career. As Snyder, Cal Turboville, Evan Gomet 1, 2, and 3 here on the Speedway. Brad Lane unfortunately had fallen back away from Turboville and Evan Gomet, and Brad Lane finds himself back here battling for that 4th position as Jacob Grube right into that battle. Grube rounding out our top 5 right there in that fight. About 6 seconds back, you do see Kevin Winker and that 45 of Chris Gilbert. This is a battle for that 6th and 7th position. 6-7, chat, 6-7. The 6th and 7th position here for Winker and Chris Gilbert, as Nick Garner there in 8th, Jason LePan back in 9th, and Kyle Wiggins rounding out our top 10. Robert Howard there in 11th, with Ed Koschersberger back in 12th. He does have some company here. It's Ryan Peterson. He got a little bit too bored and now battling here with Koschersberger, giving him something to do here throughout this race, trying to battle, have a little bit of fun out there on the racetrack as him and Ed battle here for that 12th spot on the Speedway. About 7 seconds behind them, you do see Tim Blankenbeckler, and then we see Bobby Blair there in 5th. And then we see Gordon Glidewell, John Herbert, and Kyle Van Tassel bringing up the rear of the field, as Ryan Peterson says, no 6-7, 11. No 6-7. He says, yeah, I'm there with you. It's funny sometimes, but I think this new generation have used up that meme a little bit too much. They've kind of burnt through it there, as we do see Tim making his way back down pit road. This is a bit of a different strategy call. Tim Blankenbeckler coming down pit side here on lap number 52 for that 4 machine. About 23 laps before the checkered flag for himself, so I'm not sure what the strategy call is for this 4 ride, but nonetheless, he makes his way back down pit road and will make another pit stop here this evening. Not sure how that's going to play out for him. I'm not sure what the strategy is there for that 4 machine, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe he's just trying to get the best advantage with, kind of the better tires for a lot longer than everybody else. We're not going to see these guys back down pit road for at least another 5-6 laps, and in that time, we are going to jump into Peacemaker Gaming Crank It Up. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crank up that volume and cheer these drivers on here this evening as our first Crank It Up in 2026 here on Peacemaker Gaming. righty, a beautiful crank it up session here this evening as these drivers give us the sights and sounds around the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is Indy, baby. It's nice and easy down at a corner number 4 for Nicholas Snyder. Back down and across the start-finish line. He will complete lap number 63, and that means we now only have 12 laps left to go before our checkered flag, our first checkered flag of 2026 here for the HCK Beagles Truck Series. So for Snyder, looking to pick up the dub here this evening. He's got 4.78 seconds between himself and Evan Gomet as he's got a decent lead, a great gap here out in front as you do see Jacob Grube now up and into third here. Short pit, it came down a lap earlier than Evan Gomet, a couple laps sooner than Cal Turboville, so he does have slightly less tire than the 64 and the 68 ride, but he's right there in the battle now, inside the top 3. He's hoping to try to stay there. It may become a little bit tougher, though, to try to keep this 64 ride back there at bay, as here comes Turboville looking to get right on around him, and for Cal, he's looking to try to work his way back up inside the top 3, maybe back up inside the top 2 here before the end of this race. It's a great run here for teammates there in that 68 and the 64 ride. They've been up in front inside the top 5, top 3 pretty much all evening long. Jacob Grube rolls there in 4th for Chris Gilbert. He's back in that 5th position as they're duking it out here with Brad Lane. Now Lane stayed out a little bit longer here, try to stretch out that fuel, try to go a little bit longer there with the tires. Now he does have quite a bit better tires than the drivers he's battling with right now. With Kevin Winker, with Chris Gilbert, he's got about 5 lap better tire than these two, and unfortunately I'm not sure if they're going to put up too much of a fight here with them, but it's definitely going to make things interesting as the 45 of Gilbert going to look to try to hang on to a top 5. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do it for Winker. He's right there duking it out with that 45 ride, knowing that he could maybe steal that 6th position back away from Chris Gilbert at the end of this race. They got a big enough gap, almost 12 seconds back. Is Nick Gardner into that 8th position, so really quite a bit of advantage here for our top 7 to our 8th place driver. Even when you look at Kevin Winker, he sits about 12 and a half, 12.8 seconds back of our race leader out there on the Speedway. And for Nick Snyder, man, he's just a man on a mission here this evening. Really, all he's trying to do is just save some tire now, keep himself in a good spot, and he's saving aggressively compared to Evan Gomet, compared to Cal Turboville. They are running, almost a second quicker than he is, and they've cut that lead down to about 3.9 seconds out there on the racetrack. But unfortunately, they got some lap traffic between themselves and our race leader, and as Snyder continues to kind of, stay just a little bit ahead of them on the tire saving game plan, he's going to do exactly what he did in the last run. Kind of allow them to reel him back in, allow them to kind of catch up to him. And as they kind of get within that 2-second marker or so, he just starts to pull farther and farther away, as now they've burnt a little bit more tire up than he has used, and now that he's going to have a little bit better tire advantage, he's just going to work his way farther and farther away from him. And for Nicholas Snyder, just on an absolute masterclass of a race here this evening, as he's led a ton of laps here this evening, qualifying in that pole position. He has been the car to beat, and everyone's chased all night long, and that will help him out right there as Evan Gomet trying to push it to the limits. Got up, scraped that outside fence, exiting corner number 4. That's going to kill a lot of his speed and momentum. Luckily enough, his teammate will be right there on his back bumper to try to pick him up, try to keep him rolling there, and try not to lose too much time again to that 5 ride of Snyder. But right now, it is still about a 4-second gap between first and second out there on the Speedway. Turboville may look to try to work his way back around his teammate to jump back into second himself here this evening, as Jacob Grube on a few lap older tires than the drivers in front of them, just trying to stay in their draft, just trying to stay within striking distance, hope for that late race caution flag, have everyone come back down pit road and try to duke it out here in good track position late in this race. Brad Lane going to round out our top 5 with Chris Gilbert, Kevin Winker right there, as well as they battle here for that 6th and 7th position. Gilbert trying to hang on to it, Winker trying to take it away from him here in this one. And now look out, 45 a little bit loose out of corner number 4 right there. Seems like we're seeing a few drivers starting to push it a little hard on the corner exit, and it's costing them a little bit here. Kicking that rear end out, burning up those tires ever so slightly. That right rear going to get chewed apart in a quick hurry if you start slip sliding around like that. And for Winker, he'll take advantage of it and jump up into position number 6. We'll see if he can hang on to it here in the closing 7 laps of racing action. Snyder, though, out in front. Gap is still about 3.6 seconds here between himself and Evan Gomet. Evan's trying to reel him in here. Now they're running still much better lap times than this 5 ride. And with Snyder only having, a lap older tire or 2 lap older tire compared to Gomet and Cal Turbeville, really, he wouldn't be giving up this much time to them. They'd be a lot closer in comparison to lap times. Last couple times around, he has been virtually about half a second slower than them. He's been giving back a ton of time to those drivers in tow and chasing him down. He's totally fine with it because he's saving so much more tire here for the closing 5 laps. And I think once we kind of see lap 70 click around, I think he's probably just going to put that foot to the throttle and just start to pull away more and more again here, especially as he starts to see less and lap traffic, kind of between himself and our second and third place drivers. They just work themselves around Gordon Glidewell. Unfortunately for Glidewell, stuck back in about that 17th position out there on the racetrack. And you can see Jacob Grube right there with him, and Koshersberger there as well. Now Brian Peterson now the first driver 1 lap down. He would love to see a caution flag here. 5 laps left to go. He's in line for that lucky dog to get back on the lead lap, to get back into the battle here and potentially duke it out for, maybe a top 10 run. Would be a blessing for Ryan Peterson, but needs that caution flag. And I think there's a lot of drivers that are hoping, that are banking on catching that caution, especially Cal Turbeville and Evan Gomet, because they know, 5 laps left to go is not a lot of time, and they are not hunting down Nicholas Snyder quick enough. Even if they continue to get that, half a second a lap back here, they're still going to be about, a second shy of catching him. They're still about 3.4 seconds back of Nicholas Snyder. They're going to need a lot more than that to reel him in here. They're going to need a second plus, or, a couple seconds here a lap to even get to his back bumper, because it's only 4 laps left to go, and Snyder is just on cruise control. He's on cruise control here to finish this one off. He's out in front, just sitting pretty. 3.4 seconds between himself and second. Evan Gomet's there in third. Jacob Grube's in fourth. They got about a 9-second gap back to Brad Lane in position number 5. 3 seconds behind him, it is Chris Gilbert, who's able to work his way back around Kevin Winker. So for Winker Nation, falls back into that 7th position. Nick Garner there in 8th, with Kyle Wiggins in 9th, and Jason LePan rounding out our top 10. And unfortunately for Jason LePan here, he could be the next driver to go a lap down. We'll have to keep a close eye on that one, but he should be far enough in front of Snyder that he won't have to worry about losing a lap. So looks like a top 10, unless a big late race mistake here for Jason LePan kind of locked in as Nicholas Snyder completes lap 72. It's 3 laps left to go here from Indy. Snyder sitting pretty out in front here in the HCK Beagles Truck Series, powered by Morphosis Machine LLC here this evening. We actually got to get that logo up. I don't know where it is. Cancel that. Oh, not that one. There it is. There's the logo we were looking for. That should have been turned on a lot sooner, but it wasn't. But there is the Morphosis Machine LLC logo right there. Huge shout out to them being on board with us as our series sponsor here on this season. Is nice and easy for his truck. That Morphosis Machine number 18 of Jacob Grube. He's trying to stay in the battle for a top 3. He's got a top 5 potentially top 4 kind of locked down here with 9 seconds between himself and that 5th place driver. Only a couple laps left to go, though, if there could be a mistake made at a Cal Turboville or Evan Gomet trying to get everything they can here in the closing laps. Maybe he can steal a top 3 away from them. And as of right now, not a whole lot of mistakes being made out of those drivers inside our top 3, especially coming from the driver out in front. 3-second lead, nice and easy, down through corner number 3. Down into corner number 4 here at the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Nicholas Snyder will head back down the beautiful front straightaway. He will cross the bricks, and this time by, he will see the white flag fly. So one more lap here for Nicholas Snyder to capture the victory here this evening. Now, with a 3-second lead, the final lap, he could give up virtually a second and a half, 2 seconds here. They still won't catch him. So for Snyder, he is on cruise control as he heads down through corner number 2. And for the final time here this evening, he will head down the back straightaway here at Indy and take us in for the final time into corner number 3. Turboville in tow, trying to reel him in. Evan Gomet's there in 3rd. Groove's back in 4th. They're pretty much locked in here to this point with Brad Lane, Chris Gilbert, Kevin Winker, our top 7 here this evening. But it's been all Nicholas Snyder. Snyder nice and easy out at corner number 4. Back down and across the line. He will see the checkered flag fly, as it is Nicholas Snyder who will pick up the checkered flag here this evening from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, give it up for the HendrickCars.com number 5 of Nick Snyder as he picks up the victory here in Indy. Man, what a run, what a drive, and what a performance. Most laps led, won the stage, quickest in qualifying. It was a reflection of perfection for that 5 machine of Nicholas Snyder here this evening, as we'll get ready to pull him and the rest of our top 3 up and into the broadcast booth for some post-race interviews here this evening. Post-race interviews coming up next. We'll get ready to pull these 3 up and into the booth. But man, what a run, what a drive, what a performance there for Nick Snyder as he'll get ready to celebrate here in Indy. As man, these guys, man, what a show, what a performance out there on the racetrack, man. That was a lot of fun. These guys, man, really put together a great race, great battles out there. 75 laps, non-stop green flag racing. 0 caution flags, 0 issues out there. Obviously, we saw a few drivers slipping and sliding a little bit as those tires started to fall off, or they were pushing those race trucks, but no one going around, no one running into a huge issue. And then, obviously, no one, really, not a lot of black flags there. We saw a couple drivers earn them, most definitely for the 87 of John Herbert, who we see just coming down pit side here. Herbert ended up with a big black flag and a big strategy call there, trying to win that stage or at least earn some stage points, put him into a very difficult position. But man, it was definitely all day the number 5 ride that everybody was chasing, everybody was hunting down, trying to steal this win away from them. Unfortunately, they just could not get there, as it is that number 5 ride of Nick Snyder who picks up the win, who picks up the dub here this evening. We'll get ready to pull him up and into the booth for his post-race interview. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, give it up here for our race winner, Nicholas Snyder. Hey, Nick, it's Aaron up here in the Peacemaker broadcasting booth to get a copy.
Yes, sir.
Nick, man, what a run, what a drive for you here this evening as our first race back in the new year. And, man, it was virtually the reflection of perfection for you here this evening. Qualifying on that pole position, winning that stage, leading the most laps here, and picking up a big win to start off your 2026 racing season, man. How does it feel to be able to jump quickly right back up into victory lane here, coming back after the holiday break?
Feels pretty good. That was a long 2 weeks off. I just knew since the update, I knew air was going to be crucial here, and it's going to be crucial next week at Kansas. It's amazing, when you get behind somebody how much aero affects the handling of the car. So keeping a P1 position was key. And then when I got to lap traffic, it just got really tight, and I think it hurt me in the long run. But yeah, no, it feels great to finally come back out on top. I think I lost this race last year, one position, so it feels bittersweet to get it back.
Yeah, I feel like Groob might have beat you last year here in this race, but yeah, redemption here on this season, able to jump here into Indy, pick up a win. It's such a historic racetrack, and obviously in another historic fashion here with the HCK Beagles Truck Series going 75 laps again, clean and green, no caution flags. Did you kind of game plan for that? Did you imagine that it was going to be, not a caution fest and more of just a long green flag run all race long?
No, I was expecting a couple cautions, to be honest, during that first stint before the pit cycle. I just figured, no one maybe never tested with the new Aero update. Luckily, Kyle and I, we hopped in a room together and at Kansas, I think it was, and we figured out how bad it was. So I kind of figured it would throw everybody for a loop here tonight, whether it's gonna be, I found that off of four and off of turn one was bad with Aero, so I figured a caution would have probably came out in one of those corners. But when we did the first pit cycle, I just kind of stuck with the strategy, and I didn't want to change it by running long. I just did 20, 20, and 20, just playing it safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely easiest strategy, and obviously the one that kind of, eliminates any worry or risk kind of deal out there on the racetrack, pitting too early or pitting too late and giving back so much time through tires or anything else late in this race or throughout some of those later, runs before coming back down pit side. So it all worked out perfectly into your favor. And talking about, being, a little aero tight out there and how much the, virtual draft here at Indy down these straightaways really affects you. We talked about it early on about how, you're out front, you want to stay out in front, but as you kind of kept on rolling, you started to build up that little bit of a lead. And once you kind of break that draft, off your back bumper to the cars behind you, it really starts to allow you to kind of show the pure speed that your truck has. And we saw that as you started to pull away there. And obviously through that second stint, you were able to open up, a pretty sizable lead over 4 seconds there. And then throughout this race, kind of just playing that cat and mouse game that we've seen you do before. You have such a big lead. You come back out onto the racetrack, you may have older tires than the guys behind you, but you kind of let them reel you back in, making sure that you kind of bounce those tires out. You still hold that, good gap, and then just kind of just stay on cruise control there. And that's exactly what we saw later on this afternoon as well.
Yeah, I was just about maintaining. I didn't want to burn up anything, um, too early. I knew I was going to have a pretty good lead by, not really short pitting, but short pitting. So I knew I just had to play the game right and just try to maintain my distance once they got, too close where they can't catch my draft. And it's just a mind game when it comes down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a mind game, and obviously everything worked out for you here in this one as you park yourself back up and into victory lane here this evening. Nick, who'd you like to thank for another great run, another great performance in capturing tonight's victory here in Indy?
Yeah, I would like to thank, everybody at HCK for taking their time and, putting on a season for us and um, kind of watching over us and babying us a little bit. I hope everybody else had a great holidays. Um, would like to also thank you and hope you had a fantastic holiday. Uh, would like to thank Snyder Bees Racing and everyone that's a part on my crew. Um, just like to thank everybody that took their time and watched the race on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was a heck of a show, a heck of a race here this evening, Nick. Congrats on the win, and we look forward to seeing you back in action again next Tuesday as season back underway, back into the action, man. We're happy to see you guys back out there on the racetrack and back to battling here for these Tuesday nights.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, give it up there to the number 5 rider, Nicholas Snyder. Snyder picks up the dub and pulls himself up and into victory lane. As we'll get ready now to pull in our second place finisher, it's the 64 ride, a Cal Turboville. Hey Cal, it's Aaron up here in the Peacemaker broadcasting booth. Do you get a copy?
Yes, sir.
Man, another great run, another great performance for you here in this one. Obviously, a lot of, tight battle and a lot of nose-to-tail action out there between yourself, your teammate Evan Gomet, and then you throw in, obviously, Jacob Grube there towards the later half of that, Brad Lane for a while, and then obviously in that first stint with Snyder right there in front of you, try to stay glued to his back bumper. Unfortunately, just couldn't quite stay there all night long as he was able to kind of leapfrog it there, open up some big, advantages throughout this race, and just kind of keep that trapped off your front bumper and continue to pull away from you here in this feature event, man. Take us back through what's going through your mind.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one. I could not catch Schneider to save my life. I don't think anybody had anything for him. He was just bad fast. He's always fast though. So, yeah. Middle of the race, it was pretty tame. Yeah. Me and Evan was just going back and forth at it. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not really a long race. Obviously, a lot of laps there under green flag, clean and green, all 75. So no caution flags or anything else to kind of, reset the field and bring you back, maybe to a level playing field, especially late in this race with, a set of tires still back behind pit wall. Obviously, for yourself and a lot of these drivers, that's what you're banking on to try to hope to give yourself another shot at trying to steal this win away from Nicholas Snyder. But it seemed like the arrow here, and obviously it's been like that for a while, but even after this latest update, has made it very, very tough to pass and make things very interesting. Do you think you would have had something there, maybe a late race caution flag that you could have been able to get back around that 5 right of Snyder to steal this win away from him?
Yeah, I think a caution definitely would have been something that would have threw a curveball in the mix. It was just, we ain't had a caution in a race in a while, and it's been a lot of just green flag running and not really being able to do anything with it. It's just, I don't know, it's just been kind of follow the leader. But I noticed, like you said, the update come up and there's been dust on the track. I've never seen that before. It's just kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely an interesting one. Definitely, something that drivers, are now going to have to game plan for, especially when we head to a tough track like Kansas next Tuesday. Going to make things, that much more difficult to keep these things under control. So that race may not be as clean and green as this one. We may see a few drivers looping around there at Kansas. I'm sure without a doubt we'll see that. So, at least you'll get a couple cautions and a couple, ways to either, help yourself or hurt yourself next Tuesday night. But here tonight, man, it was kind of about that first run. You're kind of gonna take everything you can get. Obviously, no one really expects to see a race go 75 laps at Indy clean and green without at least a issue out there on the racetrack. But man, this series, you almost got a game plan for it and plan for it each and every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd really like to see a few cautions next week at Kansas. Definitely. I think that would be what we've been needing for a while. Get something different going on, because it's just been too much. But I'd like to thank Evan for not destroying me, because I threw some sure enough blocks on him and it was pretty funny. I'd like to thank everybody watching. I'd like to thank you for doing such a great job broadcasting. HCK for doing a great job putting on the league, and yeah, see what next week's got.
Absolutely, brother. Well, we can't wait to see you out there on the racetrack. Hope to see you potentially not bring out any of those caution flags yourself or get collected in them, and see you back up here in the broadcast booth.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, give it up there for our second place finisher, Cal Turboville. Cal comes home in position number 2 here this evening. Heck of a run, heck of a drive there for that number 64. As we'll get ready now to pull in our third place finisher, Evan Gomet. Let's pull Evan up here into the booth. Hey, Evan, it's Aaron up here in the Peacemaker broadcasting booth. Did you get a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Evan, man, heck of a run, heck of a drive for you here this evening. Obviously, a lot of tight battling, nose to tail out there on the Speedway, but throughout this one, obviously, you and your teammate, Cal, you guys went to work on each other. You guys duked it out. Unfortunately, just really didn't, after, that first wave of pit stops, you lost a lot of time there, the Snyder, and really just never had a chance to get that time back out there on the racetrack. So it was really just a fight for second between the two of you guys for majority of this race. You kind of throw in Brad Lane there, you throw in Jacob Rube a little bit there towards the end, but man, some exciting and great battles there, throughout this race between you and your teammate. You got to be, pretty happy about the outcome, but obviously always wanted to go for that win and just never getting a caution flag to go for it here this evening.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were racing hard and nothing past it. We made some contact, but I don't care. I was having fun the whole time. It was so hard to pass here with the dirty air and the way the trucks are, and everyone's running the same pace. Everyone's so good, so it was fun. Glad to get third. Good for points. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points day. Also, we saw you earn at least a stage point there as well at the end of the stage, and obviously coming home third. It's a great day at the Speedway. You get some good points into your back pocket, and obviously, your teammate right there in front of you. You got to be pretty happy with the teamwork out there on the racetrack and how you guys performed here this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a blast. Snyder's just obviously class of the field everywhere we go, so chasing him probably for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely a tough cookie to crack. But now with this newest update and how tight and difficult the draft and some of the dirty air is here when we head to a racetrack like Kansas Speedway next week, we said that to Cal that we could probably see quite a few caution flags with drivers just looping it around, losing that rear end and going for a slide out of these corners. So next week could be a whole different ball game. Could be definitely a lot different strategy being played out when it comes to a race like that.
Yeah, Kansas should be interesting with the new update. Hopefully makes the field a little bit closer, and we can see what happens there.
Absolutely. Well, tonight, man, heck of a show, heck of a battle, and a solid third-place finish for yourself, Evan. Who would you like to thank for another great run and great performance here this evening?
I'd like to thank my parents for watching, as always. Shout out Hometown Garage, great sponsor, Banjo Time with Clara, and you for broadcasting, and thanks to Beagles for putting on a good series here.
Absolutely. Well, Evan, great run, great race back here in 2026, and we can't wait to see you back in action again next Tuesday and see if you and your teammate can try to park each other right back up into the broadcast booth here for some post-race interviews and maybe a win next week from Kansas.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely, brother. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yep, you too.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, give it up there to our third place finisher, Evan Goulmet. Goulmet comes home in position number 3. Solid run, solid performance for Evan here this evening. Now, for the 68 ride and for all these other drivers, the battling has completed. No more duking it out here. These Warriors are done today. And unfortunately, that will be the end of the action here in this one, man. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. All the fans in the stands coming in with the likes, the comments, the shares, man. We appreciate each and every single one of you. And can't wait to see you guys back in here tomorrow night. Some more amazing racing action as we head back to the dirt track. Dirt Street Stocks back in action with the Dirt Warrior Racing League. Going to be another huge show. We should see a full field and see a lot of the best dirt racers, in attendance and duking it out tomorrow night, which should be a ton of fun. And we can't wait to see those guys back in there and can't wait to see you guys back in the grandstands cheering those drivers on. But thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see y'all in the next one, man. Peace and love, ladies and gentlemen. Peace and love.
Vision. Planning. Possibility. At Morphosis Machine, we turn ideas into engineered reality. Whether you're working with plastics, composites, ferrous or non-ferrous metals, our capabilities and vast partner network ensure no project is too big, too small, or too complex. From concept to completion, your success starts here. Discover how Morphosis can elevate your machining needs today.
within our sight. Asphalt heroes in the fight. Peacemakers gaining light so bright. Rev it up, feel the pace. Speed hounds in the race. Feel the thrill, feel the chase. Victory is our holy place. Throttle down, no time to waste. In this high-octane haste. Every corner, every taste leads us closer to first place. Under lights, the engine scream. This is more than just a dream. Through the asphalt like a beam. Racers' hearts with fervor gleam. In this game we find our might. Push the pedal like the night. With each lap our spirits flight. Racing on with all our might. Trucks flying through the night. NASCAR dreams within our sight. Asphalt heroes in the fight. Peacemakers gaining light so bright. Rev it up, feel the pace. Speed hounds in the race. Feel the thrill, feel the chase. Victory is our holy place. Thrill the place. Thrill the place. Throttle down, no time to waste. In this high-octane haste. Feel the thrill, feel the chase. Victory is our holy place. Throttle down, no time to waste. In this high-octane haste. Every corner, every taste leads us closer to first place. Throttle down, no time to waste. In this high-octane haste. In this high-octane haste. Every corner, every taste leads us closer to first place. Under lights, the engine scream. This is more than just a dream. Through the asphalt like a beam. Racers' hearts with fervor gleam. In this game we find our might. Push the pedal like the night. With each lap our spirits flight. Racing on with all our might.